Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad that we're all back, and I know that you enjoyed your time at Mass, and it was very fruitful for you as well as for the lunch. Again, thank you again for everyone back home. We are back again, so I just wanted to welcome everyone back. I do want to also state that we have one of the members, Angela Prudhomme, who's going to give us a little poem. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. So God put in my heart to just want to share one of our poem with you all today. So the poem is titled, Smile, God Loves You. When you smile, I see your spirit. Through your eyes, I view your soul. When you speak, the words you fashion tell the tales of one who knows. When you laugh, there's joy in sharing. When you cry, your sisters mourn. What wonders would escape us if you had not been born? So when you strain to hear your calling, when you wonder what life holds, when the path that you have chosen takes you down some unknown road, smile and show your spirit. Blink to refresh your soul. Speak your words in such a way that others learn what they should know. Laugh and take joy in the sharing. Know the tears are not yours alone. God's reasons may escape you, but she chose that you be born. Smile. You are God's love. Amen.
How they say, we never know the talent that we have until we are being able to share it. Thank you so much, Angie. Thank you so much. And now I will take the time to address and introduce our speaker for the afternoon, Dr. Ajuwa Wungu. I did it. Thank you. She is a member of the St. Augustine Mental Health Ministry at Emmaus Walk. She will present to us on caring for ourselves. She will discuss compassionate self-care and some of the many ways of dealing with stress, along with some meditation exercises to lead a spiritual and healthy lifestyle. Thank you, Ajuwa.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm going to be talking about self-compassion. This is a topic that I enjoy talking about. This is a topic I enjoy talking about and is also much better practicing. So I hope when I finish, you will also feel the same way. So the information I'm going to be giving you is based on the work of Dr. Christine Nerve, and she has a website. The address of the website is selfcompassion.org. So that's why I didn't really print out any handouts, because you can go to that website. So I am coming here as a fellow parishioner of St. Augustine who also needs to practice and improve using self-compassion. So we are in this together. My goal for today is for us to increase our understanding of self-compassion, especially how to apply it, to kind of talk about the benefits. Why should we use it? Especially talk about the misconception of self-compassion, because I think a lot of time we misunderstand it, and because of that, we don't use it as much. And then at the end, hopefully we'll put everything together and practice. So all of us, or most of us, I don't want to say all, but I believe most of us have experienced going to meet someone and giving them compassion. So we have an idea of what it looks like. We know what it looks like. Or we have had someone come to us in our moments of need, difficulty, and stress, and gave us care, gave us attention. So we know what that feels like. So that's the prototype. It's just that how do we bring it to doing ourselves? So I want to first of all offer definition of self-compassion. So compassion, the roots, it has to do with Latin. I never learned Latin. But the Latin root of compassion, passion is suffering, calm is sweet. So compassion is to suffer with, to be with one when they are suffering, to give care. So self-compassion, because we are doing it for ourselves, is relating to our difficult emotions, thoughts, our suffering with kindness, with warmth, with support, with acceptance. That's it. So, this can be abstract, but we want to then bring it to actionable steps that we can take. So the prototype we are looking for is how we have done it when we give it to somebody else. And we are going to use that, retrace that to how to do it. So there are 3 components of self-compassion. We can just do those 3 components separately, or we can bring them all together. The first step is mindfulness. We've heard a lot about mindfulness. Everybody talks about mindfulness. So the definition I'm going to offer today is for mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Paying attention to the present moment without judgment. So how do we do that? First of all, is paying attention when we are talking about ourselves to our present moment without judgment. So a lot of times, for many of us, when we have difficult thoughts or difficult emotions, we don't know how to get out of it. So we start struggling by, negative thoughts. We try to use positive thoughts, and there's a tug of war. The person that wins the tug of war is the person that let go of the rope. So I want you to just shift from your thoughts to your body, the rest of your body, by using our senses. So what are we seeing? What are we hearing? What are we smelling, touching? And touch is, our skin. That's the biggest organism. So, for example, if I say, pay attention to the sounds that you are hearing in this room or outside of this room. We shift our attention. Or if I say, notice the color yellow in this room. Exactly, beautiful. But you can imagine, once we start shifting our focus, we don't have to fight so much with the thoughts. We are just shifting, moving the spotlight to the senses. Or we can even say, in terms of touch, notice how your feet feels in whatever you're wearing. Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it warm? Notice where your body touches another part of your body. Notice your clothing, So there's so many ways we can do that. So that's a way to shift, start coming from our head to our body. So we go internal, right? So I can use sound. I can say, notice the sound that we're hearing And then notice the sound that is closest to you, that is close to you. And I'll say, notice the sounds that are coming from you. So that could be your breathing. You can notice the sounds of your breathing. If you're quiet enough, you might notice your heartbeat, or if it's beating so loud. So there's so many ways that we can start coming inwards. And when we come inwards, then we can start saying, notice the sensations that are in your body. Why am I saying notice all this? The first thing you do when you go to render care to someone in moments of difficulty is to listen to them. So mindfulness is we are listening to ourselves. And I think a lot of times we think that thinking, analyzing, interpreting, predicting is listening to ourselves. That's not listening to ourselves. That's judging. And we don't want to judge. We want to listen. Because our body is always reacting to our experience of our environment, of how we are relating to someone. It's also reacting to our internal dialogue. So if you are cheering yourself on, your body relaxes. If you're beating yourself up, it tenses. So we are also reacting to all those things. So that's the first thing, listen to ourselves. So when we come closer inwards, and we're now listening to the sensations. Some people are good at it, maybe they've practiced, but I'm trying to talk to people who are not so good at this. I say, what am I noticing? So what you might be noticing is movement. Tingling, tickling, prickling, pulsing, those movements. You might notice temperature. You might notice warm, coolness, cold, hot. Each at different time with whatever is happening, that changes. It's not the same. You can notice the weight, heaviness. I feel heavy. You can notice loose, light. I feel light. You can notice where I feel tension or constriction. And other stuff, you can notice maybe there's a burning somewhere or tingling. What I'm saying is that listen to yourself without really going into your head. Many times when we notice these things, we're like, okay, what is that? Why? How long has it been there? We start going back to our head. And I tell you, just stay with it. You're listening. Just listen. Just notice it. You don't have to wrap words around it. Just notice. And then you can acknowledge what you've heard, what you've noticed. This is a moment of suffering. This is a moment of stress. Right? This is hard. There's a lot of anger in me. Anything, you're not judging. You're just acknowledging what you have noticed in your body. That's the first step, right? The second step, the second component, is shared humanity, which is the interconnectedness. I love it when I heard Father Pat talk about it, that we are not alone, that stress, failure, mistake, suffering, they are all part of the human condition. So many times when we are experiencing stress, and sometimes we don't even know when we are suffering. So I want to even say, when we are feeling stress, that's a time of struggle or suffering, right? If we are thinking, oh my gosh, when I get home now, I have so and so to do, and you start getting overwhelmed about it. That's a time of, you can meet yourself during this time with self-compassion. So when we do that, when this shared humanity is to say, I'm not alone. there are many people who go through this. I'm not abnormal. I'm not wrong. You know, that becomes, instead of it being a way to isolate, to separate, it becomes a way for us to connect. You know, that we are in this together. The way that we suffer or the intensity of the suffering might be different, but that we suffer, we struggle, we get stressed. That's the human experience. So that's the second component. So we have two components already that we can use at every time. We can tell ourselves, you know, about it. We can practice the mindfulness, paying attention, listening to our bodies. The third one is self-kindness. Ooh. Yeah, you know. Yeah. You know, so we know what kindness looks like. So again, let's go back to how we are when we go meet someone who is struggling and that we want to give care or support. What tone of voice do we use when we go meet someone that have had misfortune and we want to go and care for and give attention and support and help? What tone of voice do we use? What kind of words do we say? And what kind of words don't we say? Because that will give us a clue as to how we do it, right? What attitude do we take? What posture do we come with? Because we know how we often, when we are not giving care to ourselves, the posture that we take with ourselves. So we want to now think of those things, because that's what we are saying should be part of self-kindness. Just even using that, we know what it should look like. But I want to give there are different ways to give self-kindness, you know, a way that, you know, that I'm not going to share, but one of the is music. We can put music and it feels as if we are wrapping ourselves. You know, I listen to Nina Simone, and oh my, it's as if she's literally singing to me and comforting me. So we can use that. But I want to give two ways. One is touch. And I was like, oh, when Father Pat was talking about touch, the importance of touch, you know. And the other one is words. So touch is a primary way to give care. So touch is, you know, and I want to think, when we have a baby is born, they don't have language. The parents cannot use word, you know, they can use word, but the kid is not understanding them most times. And the kids are not saying anything that the parents will understand. What usually is used is touch, to be able to say, I'm here with you, you are going to be okay. So that's our body is built to interpret warm, supportive touch as a signal of care. It's built already. And the good news is that our body does not make a difference between touch from others or touch from ourselves. So when we give touch, it can register as care, as self-compassion. So let's talk about some of these touches, because I want to be able to make it concrete that we can be able to use. So usually when we are moved, like Father Pat was talking about being moved, when we are moved, either because we had wonderful news or we've had devastating news, often we put our hands to our heart. So just putting our hands to our hearts, the research has shown that it reduces the stress hormones that are flowing in our body. So we can be able to use one hand, we can use two hands. And just breathe. Yeah. Please feel free to join me in some of this stuff. Yeah. And so for some people, that might be too vulnerable. So Dr. Christine Neff will talk about the fist, putting a fist, which is like a fist of strength, and then wrapping the other hand with, this tender, and just allow yourself to give yourself strength. So that's one way. The other way that I like to do it is putting your hands in your stomach. Because a lot of times when we are feeling too stressed out, we are feeling overwhelmed, we are feeling this thing, we feel it in our guts, right? So we can be able to give care to our guts. And one of the things that I like about this is that you can connect to the rhythm of your breath, and just feel yourself breathing. And oftentimes when we are rushing, it can allow ourselves to slow down with that. We can hold our hands on our cheeks, when you are a little kid, and, somebody is just coming and cupping your hand. Yeah. So some of these are, and one of the things I like is touch as if you mean it. Put pressure so that you can feel it. Allow yourself to feel the warmth of their hands. For many of us, when we are overwhelmed, or maybe we don't feel supported, we're like, oh my gosh, everything is just running. I'm just by myself. I'm doing all this stuff. You can allow your hands to be the support. Let it rest there. Allow the weight to have someone else carry the weight for you. So that's one of the ways. And then I think there was a mention of a hug. So there's something called self-hug that we can do. So one of the things is that when we are, for some of us, not everyone, for some of us, when we are in distress or we're overwhelmed, we don't even want the touch. We don't want the hug. But we can give it to ourselves so that it's not that, if we feel that vulnerable with other people. Or some of us, we want the hug, but maybe we live alone, or wherever we are, we don't feel safe with the people around us. Or sometimes it's so big that we need to feel as if something is contained. So I just want to offer you the demonstration of the hug. So your right hand, put it, and this is where your heart is, right? No, yeah, please. Oftentimes I would say put your fingers underneath your armpit, just a way to just, steady it. It's more comfortable. And your left hand, you can put it either on the other arm or on your shoulder, whichever one is comfortable. Yeah. So in this place, you can stay for a while. For me, this is more comfortable. Everybody is different. You can even put your head, and just be there. And if you need that tight of a squeeze, usually for me, I will just hold my head. I can really squeeze myself. So that's a way, And look, you started moving. I like that because sometimes when you're in this position, you start moving. So bring movement into it. Yeah, and just breathe. So there's multiple ones. I had to figure out which one to choose. I had to force myself. I'm like, Aju, you don't have a whole lot of time. Yes, please.
I was reading once that there's healing be in touch.
Yes.
And usually with my clients, when they leave my session, I give them a hug and a lollipop.
Yes.
They look forward to both.
Yeah.
The little boy that I'm working with, he give me my hug. Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't it. I don't want to bring politics, but I think the vice president candidate. There was a video going on about when he was signing something for children, and the children were lining up to get their own hugs. But one of the things that I love Father Pat for saying is that as an adult, we become responsible for ourselves, to parent ourselves. It's not that we don't need it, because sometimes we think, oh, we are grown, we don't need it. We still need it, but now we give it to ourselves. So we are going to give ourselves this. So I said I will watch my time, but okay. Yeah, thank you. So maybe this would be a bit of a break so that I get questions before we move to the next one. No, for questions. Yeah, or comments, before we move to the next. Any comments, questions, please?
This is Janet. I'm sorry. I just needed to find out I guess for me, on a busy day, how can I stop and do some of this stuff?
Yeah.
Just for self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to say to stop because I can't stop. I got little people running around me.
Yeah. So, yeah. It sounds as if you have the...
Okay, go ahead.
But you can.
Okay.
Okay, but so again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a half an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it can just be taking a minute to catch your breath before you go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not gonna catch them little ones anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
May I?
Yes, please.
Okay, she says that she has little people because you're talking about on days like when you go to work. When you go to work, one thing children will do and they will respond to, just like she says, they will respond to hugs. You just run up, come here.
Exactly.
No, and then you go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And then you go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Folks look forward to that.
Look forward to it.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, I wanted to share. My mother was a teacher, and she used to teach grade school kids. And she was saying there was one little kid that was just always, he was just bundle energy and always stuff and distracting and what have you. And so she said, one day she said, she called him up and she said, listen, she said, sometimes we all have busy things going on and difficult times, and, sometimes, I'm having one of those days, so I really need you to kind of calm down and be quiet, right? And she said it was a few weeks later, and he came up to her and he said, Miss Prudhomme, when you told me about how, you got this going on and then that you're having one of those days, and she said, yes. He said, well, I'm having one. And she said, well, that's okay. You come right over, you sit right over here, you put your head down and you relax.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing, I found out that working with kids, or depending on the ages, a lot of children don't get hugs.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes, as an adult or someone that's just filling in, to have them and come and sit close to you, and they'll share things with you that they don't share with anybody else.
Yeah.
And you talk about your busy schedule. When you go to the bathroom, that's we talk about the closet and the prayer.
Yeah.
That's another good time that you can, don't take but a second. The Lord got you in that bathroom, so then let me get this off me right now.
Yeah.
But I've learned that some kids have even told me if I had a mother like you, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Oh, yeah.
That's a learning experience. I guess as I got older, I can appreciate now more so than I did then. why my parents were so strict. You know, that thing about boys and books don't mix, get an education and all that and other, you know, okay. But then when I look back and I look at some of the young ladies and young men that I grew up with, where they are now and where I am now, I said, thank you. I look at the finished product that my parents portrayed and laid on me. And having been the mother of just one, but raising other people's children, and I look at them, I feel good about myself. You know, sometimes you wonder, how did I get to where I am now? But by the grace of God, every step that I took, when I look back, He was carrying me the whole time.
Yeah. So this is the kind of conversation that we need to have more often. So any of this stuff, you can just, to add to all the wonderful ideas, you can just notice, you can just come back to your body.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, some of the body positions you were showing, seems like we instinctively do that, like when we're fretting, it's almost like you see animals and what they do instinctively. Seems like we have some of the same capabilities, but probably not acknowledged. We don't know that we're doing it, and there's an actual effect that takes place.
Exactly. So there is the theory that I completely believe in, is that our autonomic nervous system is absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's just that sometimes we don't listen to it. So that's the thing, that we know what feels good. Like babies know what position that feels good. We know. It's just that sometimes we kind of move away from it. I tell people that we are older than our age. Our DNA, our DNA that has been passed on from one ancestor to their ancestors has that knowledge of what has the resilient knowledge that what has helped us. So we are, if we can listen, that's why I even invite you to notice when you're stressed out, what are you doing? And notice whether that feels good, because maybe you already know that, so that you can be intentional about using that, But I agree with you. Sure.
Some cultures have been defeated but never destroyed, like China, India. They tap into technology which may or may not be acknowledged in the West, like energy meridians. How does that fit into that equation?
I'm sure that those, I do believe that some of the information that we have gathered from past through different cultures, is amazing. So I do believe in that. I do believe that we are all made of energy. Our emotions are energy, our thought, all those things. But I'm not an expert in those, but I do believe in those. I go and get my acupuncture. So, so I was talking about just listening. One of the things that I actually realized that I didn't talk about, I said 2 ways of giving self-kindness. So touch. The second one is words, words, gentle words. You can say, this is, I see you. I hear you. I am here. You can even use an affectionate term. Baby, I'm sorry you're going through this. We can tell that to ourselves, I care about your suffering. We can use those words and give ourselves comfort. This is tough right now. I know. We can even witness ourselves. I was working with a young lady who, went through a lot. One of the things was that she lost a baby on the day that she had the baby. And she did not know. for years, nobody has talked to her about it, about her connection to the baby. She was always thinking that the death. And then we did some work about, then the 7 months that she carried the baby, to the connection. So she was able to connect to the baby. And then she started breaking because she's like, oh my gosh, I loved him. She didn't realize because she felt that, I only had less than a day with him, but through the connection and talking about it. And as she was crying, she felt she was able to really say the words to herself. I know, I saw you. I was there with you. When we were talking about giving words to herself, I was there. Because she thought that she doesn't have any memory of this. So she could tell herself, I saw it. I was there with you. I saw it. And there was some healing about it for her. I was witnessing. I wasn't saying anything. So sometimes we can even witness to ourselves because we feel as if nobody will believe us. But we can believe our own story, So words can be powerful. So one of the things that I liked about this Christine Neff, she said that these 3 components, the self-kindness, the connectedness, and the mindfulness, it is loving, connected presence. And loving as the self-kindness, connected as shared humanity, and mindfulness, presence. So when she said that, I don't know whether she's a Catholic, it registered to me. Loving, connected, presence. That reminded me of the presence in the Blessed Sacrament, and God asking us to love ourselves the way He loves us, I remember, Father Pat said something about how do you honor God? He says, we want the way, there are multiple ways, but the one that he offered today was loving ourselves and others on behalf of God. So using this loving, connected presence is a way to connect to the ever-present God, and it's a way to be able to. So I just saw the spiritual aspect of it, and I love that. So I just wanted to share that with you. So the next session will be about benefits of self-compassion. So what's the benefits? The one I feel is so important is that it's the antidote to shame. And a lot of time people might not connect to that emotion, shame. We might think, oh, I don't have that. But I want to give another definition of shame. Any sense of inadequacy. There are different areas that we might feel inadequate. I'm not eating healthy enough. I'm not exercising enough. I'm not there for my loved ones enough. I'm not whatever enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not whatever. They say when we have this belief or ideas or experience of not being enough, that's what I would say there's a shame to it. And usually when we don't feel enough, many times we kind of don't even want to talk about it with someone else. So that's where we start bringing self-compassion. So that sense of, so I want to give, there's 3 components, the 3 things, 3 components of shame that literally the components of self-compassion neutralizes. So the first component of shame is rumination and self-absorption. So a lot of time when we are feeling inadequate or not being enough, we kind of start thinking that, analyzing that, start seeing how we did it and it's our fault or is it a curse. It can go on and on. And the more we do that, the more we become self-absorbed. So mindfulness is a call to get out of your head, come into your body. So you can see how that neutralizes, this rumination. The second component of shame, that sense of inadequacy, is isolation. Whenever we think we're, that we're inadequate in whatever way, we are wrong, whatever we give ourselves, it can make us want to be small. We start getting small. It can make us want to become silent. We are not talking as much because we have this feeling that we are not as good as, or whatever else, or we are lacking. And it can make us want to go away, which is kind of isolate, withdraw. So the second component of self-compassion is shared humanity, that interconnectedness. So instead of whatever we are struggling with, whatever suffering that we are having, instead of it feeling as if that's a way to separate, to isolate, remembering that we are not alone in this struggle, in our experience of failure, of mistake, of misfortune, let that become a way for us to connect. So that's why, for me, it's very important. So we connect to this community, whatever community, that we are not alone in this. And then the last component of self-compassion, of shame, which is the language of shame, is self-criticism. Oh, many of us are very, very good at it. And, I'm one of those that I want to improve in that and not be good. That we know how to be able to point out what we are not doing well, what we are not good at, what we could have done, we should have, could have, all those things. We can go 1,000 a minute in this. So self-kindness become a different way of just even touching yourself and saying, yeah, this is hard. Ouch. Even just that. We can even bring self-compassion to our struggle not to criticize ourselves. It is hard to be kind to myself. Just even that acknowledgement alone can take it. So that's the first benefit of self-compassion. It becomes an antidote to shame. It is the vaccine to shame. The other ones that I'm going to point out it has to do with the misconception of shame. So the misconception of self-compassion. So a lot of time people say self-compassion is selfish. You are focusing on yourself. And Dr. Janet, I think you are the one who said the plane, The more we give ourselves compassion, the more compassion we have to give to others. Yeah. A lot of the people, if you check your experience, whenever we start feeling burnt out, I think many times that's because we have not been giving ourselves compassion. We have not been giving ourselves adequate rest, we all different stuff. Burnt out is connected. I feel, that's my theory. But I feel that that's something else. So definitely self-compassion is not selfish. It gives us a way to sustain compassion for others, to sustain that ability to give to others. If we want to continue, we need to give ourselves so that we can have the resources to give to others. The second misconception is self-compassion is weak. Ooh, you are going to be soft. They did a study and they found out that soldiers who have self-compassion for the trauma that they have experienced are less likely to suffer from PTSD. Soldiers who have self-compassion for the trauma that they have experienced. So they've experienced trauma. They're, sometimes they're like, oh, why did I do this? Oh my, they might beat themselves up. But if you are able to have self-compassion for what you've gone through, they're less likely to experience PTSD. So it's almost like wrapping yourself with care and love. So, which makes sense, there is this, let me see what I wrote there. There's something I wrote to make sure that I remember this. Having our own backs, being an ally to ourselves, makes us stronger than cutting ourselves down. I think most of us can agree to that. Having our own backs, being an ally to ourselves, will always make us stronger than cutting ourselves down. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when you were speaking about this, I was struggling a little bit to connect with what you mean. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Okay.
You can't. Yeah, I felt like it. How about now? It's now better? The green light is on. It has a green light. It's so funny. Whenever I'm at anything with St. Augustine, I'm always being told to speak up, and never in my life have I ever been told I was quiet. It's always the opposite. So there's something that's extra humbling about everything pertaining to St. Augustine, and I love it. I get to, put on a different outfit, apparently. Okay. But I think when you were speaking, and it was hard for me to connect with this one.
Yes.
And so, I kept pushing myself, but I think that it is a corollary to being able to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because, when these senses of shame come up and when we feel that we're inadequate, it is usually linked to something that we feel that we should be doing that we're not doing, or that we didn't do, or maybe we should have legitimately done and we didn't. And so, maybe the connection between sin and shame, right? And so, but then, thank God we have the Eucharist. Thank God we have forgiveness. Thank God, we've been redeemed and reconciled. And so really this is like a reconciliation process, right? So once we've done that, and that's our sacrament as Catholics, then the hardest thing is forgiving oneself, right? Forgiving oneself and accepting, okay, this is why Christ came. This is why he walked. This is why he made that most arduous journey.
Yeah.
So that we can always come back into reconciliation. And maybe this is an extraction of that at some level.
Maybe. Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard for us too to connect to, because at some point you could go the other way, like, oh, I'm fine, oh, so what, I didn't do that. Oh, so, we could shirk every responsibility, do all sorts of ridiculous things, but give ourselves positive self-talk, right, to make ourselves not feel bad about anything.
Yes.
But I guess I don't think that, we have to look at everything in balance, right? So really this is, how do we forgive ourselves, maybe, if we think of it like that.
Okay.
It could be helpful.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can embrace that and see it as part of your healing process. Because, when I think of PTSD, a person experience PTSD because it's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. When you've been in a traumatic experience, some kind of traumatic experience, it impacts how you think. It impacts, your psyche. And so there's a process in terms of healing. And I know that 1 in every 6 soldiers that have come back from war suffers from PTSD.
Yes.
You cannot unsee
Yes.
what you see.
Yes.
You know, and so, but that healing is a process.
Yeah.
You know, it is not normal. It is not considered normal.
Yes.
To kill somebody.
Mm-mm.
You know,
Yeah.
or I work with victimization, and people who come to me, that's my specialty, have been either physically abused or sexually abused, and so that is not the norm.
Yeah.
And when you've experienced something that is out of the norm, it's something that should not have happened. to
Yes.
you, it leaves a wound. It leaves
Of course, yes.
and that healing is a process, because forgiving yourself is part of that process of healing, or forgiving, not for being a victim, but because many times people who are victimized, they well, what was there about me that caused this to happen? I mean, not so much.
Yes, yes, yes.
Some and when you come to the knowledge of the truth that something happened to you that was not supposed to happen to you, and then it allows you to not blame yourself.
Yeah.
You know, release that, and be able to at some point, because we say forgiveness is healing yourself.
Yes, yes,
you know,
yes.
be able to forgive the person
Yeah.
who harmed you. You know, but that's a process.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, just to add to that understanding of trauma, you know, trauma often, you know, there is traumatizing events, but the trauma itself is actually what happens in you because of that. It's similar to having a car accident. The car accident was the traumatizing event. So the physical violence or the whatever happens in the war was a traumatizing event. But the trauma itself, it's almost like when you have a car accident, you then have an injury. Like you said, the wound, you know, happens. So the wound itself. So how we care about the wound, because I want to connect it to self-compassion. So now you have a wound. Many times when we have physical wound, we go to the hospital, they patch it, they do all that kind of stuff. So when we have this wound within ourselves, do we then tend it with care, self-compassion, or do we beat ourselves over on it? You see? So that's the connection with, if you are able, you are going to have a wound, like Ms. Gail said, but how do you tend to it? Do you beat yourself? If you beat yourself, unforgiving this thing, then you are making the wound bigger and staying there. If you are able to wrap around it with love and care and gentleness, it's more likely to heal or heal faster, right? Go ahead.
Hi. Prime example of what you were talking about as a breast cancer survivor. I think my first inkling of being told that's what I had, I went through a thing, but then, you know, I had this thing in my mind, God doesn't put anything on me that he doesn't think I could bear. So as time and years went on and on and on through all the medications you have to take, and I look and I say, you know what? This was a learning lesson. Mm-hmm. And I'm able now to friends of mine that have been diagnosed with it. And like I told them, you don't even have to worry about that. This is just the beginning. You know, you don't claim anything that's negative in the beginning. The main thing is what comes out at the end. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about nothing. Worration is one of the worst things in the world that you should have. And my thing is believing in that man upstairs. Ooh, it's precious. It's been, you know, people be in denial, just like a Dauphine or someone drinking liquor, say, well, you know, I can't stop and this, that, and other. But I know that without him and letting go and let God take control, I don't have no worries. I'll tell anybody in a minute. We have some of our parishioners now that are in the hospital, and one thing that I email them, I ask them, you know, when can I come see you? Some people, you know, we can talk, you know, we email each other. But the one thing that I told them, God has your back. There's no worries. Your main thing is to heal and, you know, let go. 'Cause God has everything under control.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to comment, hello everyone, I just wanted to comment on, I guess, the discussion of PTSD. And many times when we think of PTSD, we think of something so traumatic as, a sexual assault.
Yeah.
Or being victims in a war. But sometimes it can be something, such as just being diagnosed, not only with breast cancer, but with something else that's like an invisible diagnosis where you have these chronic conditions where there is no cure and no one knows because visibly to them, you are in great condition, but you're not. And so you struggle with that and you think to yourself, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Why? What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? And so you blame yourself until you get to the point, and sometimes it takes years, where you have to release that shame. And again, you rely on the Lord, and you say, you know what? You're going to get me through this because you promised me that you would be with me. And as you're laying in the hospital bed and they're performing all sorts of tests and sticking you and putting needles in, you think, you think you're going to be with me because you promised me. And I'm holding you accountable. You promised me.
Yeah.
And so, you're right, you have to stop blaming yourself. And then you go out and you help others get through.
Yeah.
You finally release the shame, and now you're ready to share that, yep, I have it. You never knew I had it, but this is what I'm going through. If you know anybody who has this, you send them to me. Because now is my opportunity to share with others. That's right. And to get them through it, and to talk to them, and to be open and compassionate, and show kindness and understanding to them, because they're going through the same thing you went through, and it is your responsibility to get them through it the same way he got you through it. Thank you.
Not to prolong that, but there are some sisters who are in here who are part of that breast cancer sisterhood ministry. And what you're speaking was so healing for me, because that sisterhood wrapped their arms around me. And from the time that I got diagnosed, Angela put a card in my hand. We have the same oncologist. Put a card in my hand, I want you to see this particular doctor. And Peggy was there, and, the breast cancer ministry came with this big basket of stuff and goodies and stuff, and people would check on me every week, and had a sister to walk that journey with me. It was a beautiful mystery. And ironically enough, getting back to what you said, someone who I recently was talking with, who had gotten diagnosed. In fact, she's now my client. And I told her, I said, it's a sisterhood that you hope you never have to belong to.
Yeah.
But if you do, it is a sisterhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give back.
Yeah.
We called to encourage my cousin, and when I told her about my diagnosis, she said, well, I wasn't looking for you to join the club with me, but, she was always offering, information and whatnot. And true enough, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, and everybody has been, at my service, and guess what? Knucklehead over here, too. No, she's here. She's here. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to kind of go back to the comment about your earlier comment about PTSD and individuals who had the ability to not to view self-compassion or as a weakness, that it appears to enable them to either not suffer the PTSD or to heal from it, more quickly. And I don't have any clinical experience, but I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and they're constantly trying to get that message out that seeking help is not a weakness, because you get the opposite sometimes, this idea of being stoic and holding things in as being the real sense of strength, and then you have things eating away. But I was also thinking, as you were saying that, is that it seemed to link back to me, not only for, back to your initial point about mindfulness and focus, because one of the things about the trauma from PTSD is you keep going back to the traumatic experience, and that different things can trigger that. And if you know, and different people cope with things differently, but if you have an ability to stay more focused on the present, then, you know, that may help you in your healing process. So that was kind of how I thought it was a connection.
Yeah. Okay.
I just have a question.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about, you know, compassion, when we talk about, you know, our various situations, whether they be extremely traumatic or, you know, just kind of jarring, where does resiliency play? What component does resiliency, you know, play?
So, self-compassion brings resiliency, you know, because first of all, just know that when we are overwhelmed or we are suffering from PTSD or everything, it's taxing our system. So our body interprets that as there's a threat. And so we are in the fight or flight, you know, so we are always, you know, in defense mode, you know, so you are always alert. Your body is not able to relax and be able to heal and recover and restore and all that kind of stuff. So bringing self-compassion is similar to bringing safety in your system. You're bringing, you know, so the more you then feel safe, the more your body can say, okay, relax, and you can get to that restoring. So I think they are very much, they go hand in hand, you know, that practice. Because we don't choose to be overwhelmed, you know, we don't choose to have PTSD, you know, it just happened because of the wound that we have, the emotional wound that we have and all that. So using this self-compassion, and that's why I'm sharing concrete ways to be able to get it so that you can have it. And I want to actually connect to this idea. You mentioned something about, it will feel like it's indulgent, where, you know, self-compassion, that's the next one. So you mentioned something like that. I'm like, yeah, that's the next one. The misconception that self-compassion is indulgent, that we are just, you know, giving ourselves short-term pleasure at the expense of long-term harm.
or not holding ourselves accountable.
Exactly.
For things that we need to hold ourselves
Yes,
accountable.
yes.
Then I understood what you said, like completely.
Yes.
Said, there's something that causes a wound, right?
Yes.
What the wound was caused from. Once the wound is there, it's there.
Exactly. Yes.
However it came, whether you
Yes.
did it yourself
Yes.
or somebody else did it.
Yes.
whatever the
Yes.
event, it's there. And you're stuck with it, and now you need to engage.
Exactly. Yes, 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 yes. And I want to even add, that's exactly what I mean. And I want to add one more thing. Self-compassion has two sides. It's almost like two sides of the coin. So the first side is the acceptance. We're accepting that we are flawed human beings. That's what we're accepting. We are accepting that there is suffering in this world, that part of our experience is there's a struggle, there's a stress, there's the mistake, failure. That's part of the human experience. So those are the things that we accept. We're not accepting that we should be we should be engaging in a behavior that harms us. That's not self-compassion. You know, we are not accepting that, you know, we should be we should be in a situation that somebody is harming us. That's not self-compassion. So the first one is acceptance, which is almost like the parent, holding the infant and giving it healing. The second part is also parenting. When Father Pat talked about us parenting ourselves, the second part is this idea of self-compassion also has the part of providing and protecting ourselves. The actions we take to provide and protect ourselves. So that could be setting boundaries. That could be saying no, and it's saying no to someone who is harming us, but it's also saying no to ourselves. To say, stop, saying horrible things to yourself. Stop being cruel. Stop being inconsiderate to yourself. So that's the two sides of the coin. For many of us, we might do the gentle acceptance, but we are not doing the other one, but that's not complete. But most of us also do the providing and protecting, but we don't realize that we are human. We don't give the gentle acceptance, care, and all that. So both go hand in hand. So it's, and that's why I love that, because a lot of people, that's the reason why they don't do self-compassion. They think, oh yeah, I'm just indulging myself, I'm getting softer. But those go hand in hand. I don't know, yeah. Go ahead.
One of the many 300-pound gorillas in the room, I experienced some years ago. I think it affects all of us to a different degree. I was out working on my car. One of my hobbies is tinkering. And a young girl, probably I would estimate probably about 5 years old, had been, a few doors down visiting her family. And she came and stood close to a tree where I was working on the car. And she showed frustration, said, I'm too black. And I'm thinking, this child is like maybe 5 years old, and she's already absorbed this.
Yeah.
I didn't want to approach her because, as a man, you approach some child and you don't know the family and people think you're strange. And I think about it, part of our experience in America, it might be subliminal, is we experience PTSD. We go to church. They teach us that you are created black as a curse.
Yeah.
And everything that happened in the Bible happened in and around Africa. In Europe, you have Black Christ and Madonna. When you go on a job, you have to work twice as hard to get half as far.
Yeah.
You still may not make it to the top. You may end up training your supervisor. So all these things have their effect on people over a period of time. You walk down the street, and a police car went by, might circle and come back and turn the light on. All you do is just going somewhere.
Yeah.
So, we collectively deal with this in our lives at work and everywhere else,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
So.
And the self-compassion is to be able to acknowledge what is happening when it's happening, to acknowledge it. I wanted to say a curse word, but I'm trying to find a way. But, but to say, this is messed up. This is not all right. To acknowledge and witness to yourself that what you're experiencing is truly what you're experiencing, and not wait for anybody else to validate it.
Earlier today said something about the string of the DNA. What you experience, everything that you have gone through, that you are going through now, you have gone through, you've been prepared.
Yes.
And your string of DNA, some of this stuff just ain't gonna leave you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's just not gonna leave
Yeah.
you. That
Yeah.
chance is there.
Yeah.
We need to learn, I don't want to say we need to learn how to work with it, but we have the tools.
Yes.
We have the tools that we can work with it, cope with it, make it better for ourselves, parent ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
As as African Americans in this country, there is the post-traumatic stress syndrome of slavery.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is getting back to that part of it's part of the DNA.
Yeah.
Which they say the body keeps score and the body remembers.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and so, yeah.
What
just
did
to-
James Baldwin say? James Baldwin said, now, I'm gonna leave you all alone after this, I think, I don't know. James Baldwin says, to be African American in the USA means to have, it was something akin to have a lot of stress upon you and to have no white privilege. You understand?
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, I'm gonna look that up because I know I've read it
Yeah,
someplace that
yeah.
he said from way back when.
Yes.
The man was
I
brilliant.
think I remember that.
Yeah, definitely from the, I have a friend, there's a scientist, and she's doing a lot of really interesting and groundbreaking work, and it has to do with, and I am no scientist, so all of the health folks in here are going to cringe if I try to talk too much about it.
Same here.
But she literally says that when certain things happen, you can trace it in the mitochondria. So if they do the DNA test and they take all of this information, you can see she says changes, they're mutations.
Yeah.
Right, there are mutations that occur at certain spaces in the mitochondria. You can literally trace it back.
Yeah.
Now, the beautiful and good thing, and hopefully what's going to come from, I guess, all of this, I'll call it individualized medicine, but it's targeted medicine that is like
Yes.
for the individual because everything is generalized now.
Yeah.
It literally, you can test and you can see, like right now, if you go and take, it's beyond the panels, the normal panels that they give, but it's not, you can get it. It's a function of, do you want to pay for the tests? You can see all of the areas that have been compromised, and then you can learn what the compensatory measures from at least a nutritional perspective is. Like, okay, you need like 20,000% more of, vitamin K or this or that or that. They can see it, which is phenomenal and amazing. And it's going to help in the future. But I was going to say that on top of, stress is not just, you can be wounded by seeing someone else be wounded. You don't have to be the wounder or the wounded physically, but it is making an impression on you. I mean, we're sentient beings. How we're made. We cannot negotiate out of our humanity. We cannot negotiate out of, what God put us in, and that's this temple, and that's these bodies.
Yes.
We can't negotiate our way out of that.
Yes.
So it's only getting worse in the world with all of this interconnectedness with, media, and we just have so much access to information. When somebody's in trauma and we see that, there's an effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I guess just as Christians, we just have to redouble our efforts to pray and pray and pray and pray and exercise these principles even more.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be people that we see that we don't think need our compassion.
Yeah.
But they do need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are going to wrap up a little bit, but I want to do a small practice of us putting together, if it's okay with you. Yes. First of all, the last one is people think that self-compassion undermines motivation, but self-compassion actually motivates, is more effective motivator than self-criticism, always, And if you think about the sports team, when they are playing a game, if their team member makes a mistake, nobody starts yelling at them. They try to cheer them because that's the motivation. You motivate them by using self-compassion. It's the other team that wants you to lose that will start, making fun of you and all that kind of stuff. So if we know self-compassion, why do we want to do the job of the other team? By criticizing ourselves, we might as well be our own team member, and motivate ourselves. So just, let's just sit down, relax. And I want us to maybe bring a memory or something that stresses us or we struggle with, because I want us to practice a little bit of these things. So bring to mind, it's not something that is maybe too big, but maybe moderately. Just bring it to mind. And then let's come to our body. Notice sensations. Maybe come to our body by paying attention to the sounds that we hear. Notice the sound that is coming from our inside, maybe sound of our breath. And I invite you to just do a body scan. Notice what sensations are coming up that you're noticing in your body. Any movement, tingling, pulsing. Notice the temperature, where it's cool or cold in your body, or maybe warm or hot. Notice areas of tension or constriction. And when you notice areas of tension or constriction, just soften into it. You don't have to brace for it. And as we notice all this, we don't have to wrap words around it. Just notice and be with it. Making space for what is to be there. Now bring into your awareness the areas of struggle, suffering, stress. And acknowledge what that is. It can be, this is too hard. Or there's so much confusion. Just name what it is that the struggle is about. And now let's bring some self-kindness to it, whether it's warmth or support. So we can bring touch. Yeah. You can bring your hand to your heart or where you are feeling whatever sensations you're feeling. Yeah. And you can add words of comfort, encouragement, or support. I'm sorry you're going through this. May I learn to be kind to myself. May I be free from suffering. And just let's stay here for a few moments, a few breaths. And I invite you to expand your awareness into the room that you are in, noticing the sounds in the room, the temperature of the room. And if you have your eyes closed, you can open them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. All right. Thank you all for listening so well, and thank you so much for everything. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful relaxation technique for us, and I'm going to have to learn how to practice that for myself. Most definitely. Okay. I would like to also make sure that we always know, too. I can have all the members of the health ministry stand up, please. Remember, mental health, you are us. Yourselves up. And I want to thank you all for what you have done and everything to make this day possible for us. There is one member, however, was not here today that wanted to be here. She had actually worked hard at getting things done, part of the food committee that made sure that you had your good lunch, your breakfast, and all the snacks that you had. She lost her brother suddenly this past week. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. But in the midst of going through all of that, she had the presence of mind to make sure that she dropped off things that we did need to have and everything to one of the other members. And so we are dedicating this here, dedication to her. The Day of Recollection is dedicated to her brother. It's in dedication to the memory of Israel Garcia, the beloved brother of Esther Garcia. Okay? And there's a poem, the Broken Chain poem, that I wrote, I have to give to her also. We little knew that day God was going to call your name. In life, we loved you dearly. In death, we do the same. It broke our hearts to lose you. You did not go alone, for part of us went with you the day God called you home. You left us beautiful memories. Your love is still our guide. And although we cannot see you, you are always at our side. Our family chain is broken, and nothing seems to be the same. But as God calls us one by one, the chain will link again. And this is in dedication to Israel Garcia. And again, thank you. I do have a closing prayer and everything, so for us all. And in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Thank you, Lord, for your presence with us this day. As we depart from this space now, we ask you to bless us throughout the remainder of the day and guide us safely home. Do not let the learning and conversations of this gather die, but instead may they continue to ruminate within us and bear fruit in our ministries throughout the year until we find ourselves together again. We ask this in the sweet name of Jesus and in the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Thank you all again. It's been most helpful. And Mr. Garcia, Mr. Carlos Molina, thank you. You have been an awesome person for us. Okay, thank you. Thank you, my love.